Imagine watching the most breathtaking queens of R&B, women whose beauty, power, and artistry once defined entire generations, slowly transform into faces they no longer recognized. Not because they lacked confidence, not because they were chasing vanity, but because fame demanded they remain flawless, ageless, and forever marketable. In the brutal world of entertainment, plastic surgery wasn't a luxury. It was pressure. It was trauma. It was survival disguised as glamour. And for many of these icons, it became the silent force that reshaped not only their appearance, but their destiny. Behind every tightened smile, every lifted brow, and every frozen expression was a story the public never bothered to ask about. Stories of abusive relationships, childhood wounds, industry comparisons, aging under the spotlight, and the terror of becoming irrelevant. In this documentary, we uncover the emotional, physical, and cultural cost paid by 10 Black R&B legends who tragically lost something far greater than youth. They lost pieces of themselves to the surgeon's knife and the world's impossible expectations. Stay with us until the end and tell us in the comments which story truly shocked you the most. And remember to like, share, and subscribe to Secrets of Black Star for more untold truths behind the music. Tina Turner was pure fire on stage. Sequins flashing, legs moving like lightning, and a voice that sounded like gravel soaked in gold. But behind her explosive performances lived a woman carrying wounds the world never saw. After fleeing her abusive marriage to Ike Turner with just 36 cents in a gas card, Tina faced the lifelong scars of broken bones, sinus damage, and chronic pain. Her surgeries weren't attempts to chase youth, they were reconstructive, necessary, and rooted in survival, not self-obsession. But the world didn't care. By the 1990s, tabloids whispered about facelifts, tightened skin, and attempts to turn back time. Completely ignoring the truth, Tina's face was a battlefield she had already survived. While critics speculated, she rebuilt her life in Switzerland, embracing peace, meditation, and a quieter version of the power she once unleashed on stage. When Tina Turner passed in 2023 at age 83, fans mourned not a woman altered by surgery, but a legend defined by resilience. Her scars were not secrets, they were symbols of victory. So here's the question. Do people judge female icons too quickly, forgetting that some surgeries are about survival, not vanity? Tell us what you think.
Phyllis Hyman, the beauty they tried to rewrite. Phyllis Hyman was nearly 6 feet tall, regal, unforgettable. The kind of woman who didn't just enter a room, she commanded it. Her voice was velvet thunder, powerful enough to shake the walls of R&B. But behind her majesty, the industry chipped away at her confidence, piece by piece. Executive told her she was too tall, too strong, too much. Those labels eventually pushed her towards subtle cosmetic changes, nose reshaping, lip enhancements, brow lifts. Each one an attempt to soften an image the industry insisted was too intimidating. But the surgeries didn't heal her wounds. They deepened them. The more she tried to fit the mold, the more she seemed to lose herself. Friends said a little of Phyllis disappeared each time she altered her face. A tragic irony for a woman whose natural beauty once radiated strength. Her depression worsened. Loneliness grew, and the industry that celebrated her voice slowly sidelined her, leaving her to drown in isolation. On June 30th, 1995, Phyllis took her life just hours before a performance at the Apollo. Her note read, "I'm tired."
Yvonne Fair, the voice that outshined the face the world criticized. Yvonne Fair once exploded onto the Motown stage like a flame, fiery, bold, and bursting with attitude. Her 1975 hit, "It Should Have Been Me," made her a force in R&B, a woman who could sing with both sass and soul. But as newer voices emerged and trends shifted, Yvonne found herself slipping into the background. With fading spotlight came rising insecurity, and whispers of cosmetic procedures began to follow her everywhere. By the late 80s and 90s, fans noticed drastic changes. Uneven features, tightened skin, drooping eyelids. What was meant to preserve her image had instead left her with results she reportedly regretted deeply. She hid behind oversized sunglasses, avoiding cameras, and refusing to be photographed up close. A close friend recalled her heartbreaking words, "That's not my face. I don't want them to see it." Her final years were quiet, her legacy overshadowed by a transformation she didn't know how to escape. Yvonne's tragedy wasn't the surgery, it was the pressure to keep looking like the woman the world remembered. So here's the question for you. Should aging artists be allowed to evolve naturally? Or does fame trap them in a version of themselves they can never outgrow?
Natalie Cole, When the Mask Becomes Heavier Than the Music. Born to music royalty, Natalie Cole carved out her own throne with hits like This Will Be and the Grammy-winning Unforgettable. But behind her radiant smile was a lifelong struggle with addiction, illness, and the impossible beauty standards of Hollywood. As she rebuilt her life after heroin recovery in the 1980s, new pressures emerged, pressures to look youthful, flawless, untainted by her past. Multiple cosmetic procedures followed. Nose reshaping, eyelid lifts, face lifts. Over time, her expressions grew tighter, her spark dimmer. Fans whispered, "Is that really Natalie?" Those who knew her understood the truth. She wasn't chasing vanity. She was trying to erase the pain etched into her face from decades of struggle. But fate was crueler than any surgery. Hepatitis C, kidney failure, and chemotherapy ravaged her body. No cosmetic work could hide the toll. By 2015, she appeared frail, exhausted, and far from the vibrant woman fans remembered. Natalie Cole died on December 31st, 2015, at age 65. Her legacy is brilliant, but her final years raise a painful question. Did the world judge her appearance or harshly because she fought demons we refused to see?
Gladys Knight, When Even the Empress of Soul Isn't Allowed to Age. Gladys Knight, the Empress of Soul, gave the world a river of timeless classics. Midnight Train to Georgia, Neither One of Us, and Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me. Her voice was pure humanity. Her presence was grace itself. But as decades rolled on, the music industry's obsession with eternal youth began tightening around her like a noose. In her 50s, small touch-ups appeared harmless, but fans noticed bigger changes by the mid-2000s. Cheeks fuller, eyelids tighter, expressions stiffer. The most heartbreaking moment came in 2007. During a performance, Gladys tried to close her eyes mid-ballad, a signature move that once connected her soul to the audience. But she couldn't. A facelift had tightened her eyelids so much that the simple act was impossible. Some fans cried, not because her voice had faded, it hadn't, but because something felt stolen. The intimacy, the rawness, the very spark that made Gladys feel alive on stage. While she continued winning Grammys and performing, the public fixation on her face overshadowed her artistry. So here's the question. Why do we judge even the greatest singers more for their wrinkles than their work?
Jean Knight, Mr. Big Stuff, deserved better than this. When Jean Knight burst into pop culture with Mr. Big Stuff in 1971, she became an instant legend, bold, sassy, and unforgettable. But the industry that profited endlessly from her hit did little to protect her. As the years passed, lack of royalties, failed lawsuits, and a collapsing label left her financially strained, and the weight of fading fame was brutal. By the 2000s, when she reappeared for retro shows, fans were stunned. Her cheeks looked swollen, her lips overfilled, and her smile unnaturally stiff. Whispers of botched facelifts and fillers circulated. The powerful, confident Jean that once demanded, "Who do you think you are?" now seemed buried beneath layers of cosmetic changes. The tragedy? Jean never earned what she deserved from her biggest hit, yet the world felt entitled to judge her face. So here's the debate. If the industry steals an artist's financial security, do we have the right to judge how they cope with aging? Jean Knight's story is a painful reminder that exploitation doesn't end with contracts. It follows legends into the mirror. Fontella Bass, the voice who needed Rescue Me most. Fontella Bass exploded into music history with Rescue Me, a song so powerful it became an anthem across generations. Her voice was fire, confidence, and soul all at once. But long after the applause faded, the industry's cruelty lingered. Contracts robbed her of royalties, opportunities dried up, and with every passing decade, the pressure to look stage ready pushed deeper into her life. When she reappeared at charity events in her later years, fans were stunned. Her face looked unnaturally tight, her forehead frozen, and her eyelids stretched in a way that made emotion difficult to read. A series of facelifts and eyelid surgeries had left her with a lopsided smile and eyes fixed in a look of silent alarm. The woman whose voice could command a room now seemed trapped behind procedures meant to restore youth, but instead erased her expressiveness. The most heartbreaking moment came when she tried to sing Rescue Me again. Her voice cracked. She broke down. For the first time, the world saw a legend unable to rescue herself from time, pressure, and loss.
LaToya Jackson, the identity lost behind the scalpel. LaToya Jackson entered the spotlight with the soft, mysterious beauty that distinguished her from her iconic family. She wasn't Michael. She wasn't Janet. She was LaToya, gentle, elegant, understated. But fame inside the Jackson dynasty is a storm few can survive. And for LaToya, the pressure to redefine herself physically and emotionally grew overwhelming. What began as small refinements became a cascade of drastic changes: a slimmer nose, sharper jawline, lifted eyelids, restructured chin. By the time she posed for Playboy in the late 80s, fans struggled to recognize her. Over the years, her appearance shifted so dramatically that images from different eras looked like completely different women. But here's the truth behind the tragedy. LaToya wasn't chasing beauty. She was chasing visibility. In a family of legends, she feared fading into irrelevance. Surgery became her weapon. But instead of freeing her, it erased the delicate individuality that once set her apart. Today, many remember her more for her changing face than her music or activism. And that raises a difficult debate.
Della Reese, the angel who disappeared behind a mask. Della Reese was a force of compassion, an R&B powerhouse, a jazz queen, and later the beloved angel Tess on Touched by an Angel. Her presence radiated wisdom and warmth. But even angels aren't spared from Hollywood's cruelty. In her 70s, fans noticed her face beginning to change dramatically. Cheeks rounder, skin unnaturally smooth, eyes appearing stretched and distant. Though she never admitted to surgery, every new appearance revealed a woman slowly disappearing behind cosmetic reconstruction. What hurt the most was the loss of her natural warmth. The twinkle in her eyes, the softness that comforted millions, seemed frozen. The smile that once lit up any room became hard to read, trapped behind procedures that stripped away her humanity. And yet, the industry kept demanding more. Even in old age, she was expected to look flawless, ageless, untouched, as if the angel she portrayed on TV had no right to become mortal. Della Reese died in 2017 at 86, leaving behind a legacy of kindness. But her final years force us to ask, why can't we let our legends grow old naturally with dignity? Anita Ward, the disco star who tried to freeze time. In 1979, Anita Ward lit up the world with Ring My Bell. One hit, one global explosion, and she became the crowned voice of disco's brightest moment. But when her follow-up tracks failed to match the success, she faded from mainstream view. And with fading fame came a different kind of spotlight, the cruel kind. When she resurfaced decades later for retro festivals, fans were shocked. Her cheeks were swollen, her chin unnaturally sculpted, her smile stiff as if afraid to move.
Rumors of excessive fillers, facelifts, and layered cosmetic procedures swept through audiences. Anita, once radiant and full of life, now appeared fragile, trapped behind a mask of procedures meant to recapture the youth of 1979. Backstage whispers told the deeper story. Anita reportedly cried before performances, terrified her altered features might shift if she smiled too wide. The pressure to remain the ring my bell girl, forever young, forever flawless, became a haunting burden. Here's the real tragedy. The world wanted her to freeze time, but the cost was freezing herself.
What do we really remember? Behind the glitter, the gowns, and the Billboard trophies were women fighting battles we were never meant to see. For some, plastic surgery wasn't a luxury or an ego trip. It was pressure, trauma, survival. And yet the industry, the media, and even fans judged their faces far more harshly than they ever judged the forces that pushed them there. These 21 R&B legends gave us an entire soundtrack of emotion: heartbreak, power, rebellion, healing. But the world often remembered their changes more than their courage. So here's the final question we all need to confront. Should we honor them for the music that shaped generations, or for the masks they were forced to wear just to survive in the spotlight? Tell us your answer in the comments. And if these stories moved you, hit subscribe, and stay with us for more untold truths behind the legends.